You are listening to Small Business Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives small business owners the straight talk on productivity, time management, business systems, leading your teams, strategic decision-making, and mindset. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the productivity specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Small Business Straight Talk podcast. Today is episode 416, Exploring the Effect of Emotional Intelligence on Your Success with Alex Resnick. If you're a small business owner who wants to learn effective business strategies, improve time management, and elevate your productivity to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today, I am bringing back this conversation with Alex because one of the biggest struggles I see with my clients is setting and holding boundaries with their team, their clients, and their time. And here's what most people miss. You can't hold a boundary effectively if you can't manage your own emotions. This episode connects the dots in a way that clicked for me, and I think will absolutely click for you too. I'm really excited about bringing Alex back. Alex is the founder and president of Evolve Leadership, where he provides communication skills training and sales consulting to businesses and individuals. Alex spent over 15 years in sales, consulting, and training across both startups and the corporate world. In 2015, a car accident became a major wake-up call that led him to get serious about personal and professional growth. He became dedicated to finding clarity in his true passions and designing a career based on authenticity, not just what society expected of him. That journey led him to start Evolve Leadership, where he helps businesses and individuals get really, really good at communicating and selling. So here's what you're going to learn in today's episode. Why you can be successful on paper, but you still feel stuck and frustrated. The real reason people don't hear you when you try to hold a boundary. How to be firm and confident without coming across angry or emotional. Low-stake practices that prepare you for high-stakes conversations. And lastly, why Alex calls emotional intelligence a superpower for business owners. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to take my next level business owner quiz. In 3 short minutes, you'll uncover what's most holding you back from taking your business to the next level. And then you'll get a curated playlist from me of specific episodes that are going to help you break through to the next level. You can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/quiz. Again, that's amberdelagarza.com/quiz. And now let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So I want to first start off with, why am I talking to you today about emotional intelligence? I'm almost certain you didn't wake up as a child one day and say I want to make a business and serve the world through emotional intelligence. So give us a little backstory as to how you got here.
Yeah. It's one of those things where when you look back on your career, it's a lot of different dots that you connect. I think Steve Jobs has a quote about that.
Yeah.
But it really is the truest thing ever. But where the whole EQ thing, I think really came into my life in a major way is kind of in 2 phases. There was one where I was introduced to it, and then one where I kind of revisited it in a very intentional way. So just the short backstory, growing up in school, I was not the best student traditionally. It was very difficult for me to get good grades. I had to I qualified for extra time on tests, which made me super insecure because I'd be the last kid in a class and all the other kids are rushing in, and I would just rush through and get the test over with because I was embarrassed to be there, late. So school as it is designed today was very hard for me. And I formulated ideas that I was kind of maybe stupid or not that smart or I wasn't going to have a successful career. And so I formulated some of those unfortunate, negative self-images and beliefs in like high school and going into college. And, I struggled with that, but I still made my way into a pretty decent school or college. And I think it was either freshman or sophomore year of college, I was introduced to a class. I was a business major, or actually an entrepreneurship major. And I was introduced to a class called Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace. And this is like 20 years ago almost. And it's like, it was so ahead of its time. And I remember being like, wait, what the heck is that? And reading about the course description and reading about what we were going to be doing in the class. And something about it just like immediately clicked for me that I was like, this is the most fascinating stuff in the world.
That's awesome.
I remember all my friends who were like finance and econ majors. They were like, oh, that's stupid. Like airy fairy. I want to learn about making money. I don't care about this like people stuff. And for me, I'm like, no, this is it. I don't know why it just clicked for me. And I was really obsessed with it. So the class was based on a lot of information from like Daniel Goleman and all these other folks who write and study and put out work on emotional intelligence and self-awareness and developing interpersonal skills and how that all ties to leadership and working well in teams and all these things. And so at first you're a student in the class. And then after that, you can actually be a paid student consultant who helps students in the class. So I went that route. And it was just completely life-changing for me because one, I was fascinated, but two, that was my chance to be smart. For the first time, and as long as I can remember, I could be like, wait a second, I could be smart in this people thing.
Yeah.
And I think growing up, I already had a natural inclination to people. I'm a very empathetic person. I think maybe even like a people pleaser when I was younger, and we learn how to set some boundaries and develop more confidence and grow out of some of those things. But I already had a natural inclination to people. I'm very interested in folks. But then when I learned that in college, that was it. It just totally clicked for me. Unfortunately, I didn't know that being like an IO psych major was even a thing, or organizational psychology.
I think 20 years later, no one knows that's a thing.
Why didn't people told me to go be like a financial advisor? Why didn't people direct me that way?
Yeah.
But anyway, and so that's kind of where I was introduced to it. But then where it revisited in my career was I used those skills to get every single job offer after every interview I went on. Anytime I got a new job, I hit the ground running. I did very well in sales. I was always a top performer early on, but I noticed a trend that after 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on the company and what I was selling and the culture, I would start to get really either burnt out, disinterested, and start to feel stuck. I wasn't being creative enough. I know a lot of people, we can all resonate with this, where even though on one side of the coin, a lot of things could be going well, maybe you're experiencing career success, financially, a status thing, maybe just people assume you're doing well, but deep down, you're kind of like dying inside.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm getting good experience and I'm getting good skills in sales and other, corporate and business related skills. But I would go through these phases of just feeling like so stuck and frustrated. And so when I would be in those spots, and in the worst was like my late 20s, I was so down. I was like, I need to find answers. And I resorted back to the world of EQ and self-awareness. And I started doing a lot of journaling. I started taking a lot of online courses, the podcasts, the books, right? I worked with coaches, and I was like, I need to find answers on who I really am and what I really care about. And how do I provide value in my career? Or how do I create a career and a life around that? I refuse to get stuck in a life that like other people or society designed for me. And so that's where kind of revisited I was aware of this stuff in college. And then I don't want to say I forgot about it because I used it to be successful in sales, but it came back again when I was like, I need answers for who the hell I am and what I'm supposed to do with my life, because I'm 27 and I already feel like this cannot be it for the next 30 some odd years.
Right.
And
but
I retired at 60, right?
I'm sorry to cut you off, but like you said, the dots were connected. Like you were just going down a different path and you got called back. Like it was part of your journey, but it had to be the thing that frustrated you enough to get back to.
Yeah.
What you loved, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. And I remember like throughout the time, like the thing I was geeked out on was, in my free time, I would read books about like psychology, communication, influence, and the underlying themes to a lot of those things are the same as the EQ world, right? They're all overlapped. And so it's not like I like totally forgot about it. while I went through my career. It was actually the skill set I used to be successful in sales and connect with people and problem solve and things like that. But I always was like, how do I bring this back into a career? Because I don't know if I want to stay selling forever, but how do I be like, can I be an EQ?
How do you use it as value to the world? That's what you're doing now, and that's why we get to talk today.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is great. This is like literally like you started, you've used it, you real world use, which is great because a lot. I won't say a lot. That's an absolute. Many experts may not have used the thing that they're quote unquote an expert in. So I love that you're saying like, all right, so I used it in different jobs, industries, sales, people. And so to me, I think that was part of the experience that may bring it, home for you today is that, we get to talk about, like you said, the intersection between emotional intelligence and sales, emotional intelligence, and leadership with some great experience. Now, we're throwing this word out, and I don't know that all our listeners actually know what emotional intelligence is.
Right.
I think we should start there. How would you explain or define to our listeners what emotional intelligence is?
Yeah. So I like to think about it with a more, I don't want to say more because I don't know what everybody's definition of it is, but a very practical approach that just makes it quite simple because I feel it is an odd topic. It's either like, it always seems to be dismissed in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either dismissed as like, oh yeah, I'm emotional intelligent. I'm self-aware. I got that. Next, how do I make money quickly? Right? Like it's like people just graze over quick. Or they get turned off by it. I know that I've know like men in my life, especially in the working world, who are turned off by it because they thought it meant being emotional. And maybe they might equate that to something that is not masculine enough for them, perhaps. And so it does seem to be this thing that's commonly misunderstood. And so the way that I think about it almost quite simply is being able to recognize your emotions and still act intelligently anyway. In other words, being able to just step back just a little bit and be an observer of yourself in situations. And also with that, you can also recognize how other people are feeling, what emotions other people are having in those interactions with you. And so I think the first place to start with emotional intelligence is really self-awareness. And I talk about them separately, but I think you really, self-awareness is under the emotional intelligence umbrella, but it starts with recognizing your emotions. Where are they coming from? But not letting them own you and your actions, your communication, and your behavior, but instead being like, okay, you know what? I actually am feeling a little bit frustrated. Why is that? What was the trigger for me in that moment? And can I actually choose a more productive way to respond right now, or a better way to communicate to this person right now who maybe, pissed me off or said something that offended me or whatever? And I can actually just stay calm. And the next part of emotional intelligence that I preach on the most, I only pick a few categories that I think get you the furthest amount of the way there.
Yeah.
And the biggest one for me is emotional management or self-regulation, where it's I feel the trigger. Can I strengthen the muscle that is self-regulation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel frustrated right now. I feel not heard. I feel a little offended. But instead of an emotionally charged reaction, can I just stay a little bit calm and just try to then have a more productive response? And it's in that right there. That's the sweet spot right there, where you give yourself a break, a moment to pause, to not be owned by your emotions and have a reaction that might not be all that productive, and actually stay calm and then lead with empathy, curiosity, understanding, and listening, and effective communication. And just strengthening that cycle right there will make you more emotionally intelligent.
All right. Yes. Okay. So yes, to all of it. I literally have goosebumps. So I like to share personal stories of like, okay, so everything you said, I'm going to give a real life example in my world of when emotional intelligence became number one priority for me. Yeah. So my husband and I have been together for like 25 years. We were together in high school, took a break for 5 years, like found our own, like right out of high school, we were separated for 5 years.
Okay.
So he becomes a man, I become a woman, like, you kind of like experience life. And I say that to say that when we got back together, we would have conversations. And then I would just like my eyes would well up, or I would get like pissy or snap off, or all the dysfunctional things you could think of, right? And he would look at me and say, what is specifically did I say that upset you? And I would answer, I don't know, but I'm just mad. I'm upset. I'm sad. Like, and then I thought that's interesting. Like, why do I not know that I'm having these physical reactions of hurt?
Right.
And he said, I can't be in relationship with someone where I'm stepping on landmines I don't even know are there. Big, right?
Yeah.
So then we explored this journey of like, can you identify the thing that upset you, still, articulate that in a mature way of like, this was said, here's what I heard, and this is how I'm feeling about it. But I couldn't even get there because I didn't know what he said. Like if he said, 5 sentences, I couldn't even point out the word, the phrase, the thing that upset me. And so I was like, this is so interesting. So my husband was actually the first person to teach me in my world emotional intelligence. And then like you, I was like, this is so fascinating. Mind blowing. Like I could change everything. And so I delve into it myself, personal development, life coaches, workshops, like you name it, because I could see how powerful it was to change my interpersonal relationships.
Yeah. It's everything.
And at that time, I was not a business owner, but everything that I got to learn there, I guarantee has made me a better leader, a better business owner, just a better person in all my my interpersonal relationships. And it all came down to emotional intelligence.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there too.
There is so much there, but I want, as you were sharing that story of like, can somebody upset you or make you upset? And can you still say like level-headed, right?
Yeah.
Can you still think strategically? Can you still see the situation, but you're not in it and consumed by the emotions? That is incredibly powerful, like in any situation, right?
It is. It's like, it blows my mind that it's not like the number one topic that everybody obsesses over, because it is the superpower. It is the secret weapon to everything that you want in your life. Like I will make that argument for anything. Even if someone's like, I don't even like people, but I want to be rich. I'll be like, all right, I could teach you how the lack of emotional intelligence or self-awareness is impacting your financial decisions and your investment decisions. I could talk to somebody who it could be sales, getting along in teams and companies. It could be running a business. It could be choosing your career path. It could be small business owners choosing the right business to get into, because we've all experienced, I personally have been down this path, and I'm sure you have as well with clients, where they're in the wrong line of business and because they want to be an entrepreneur so bad, but they're not actually in the line of business that's right for them, that's aligned, that they're going to be most passionate about, or whatever it may be. And it's going to be an uphill battle forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super clear on who they are and picking a path or designing a business or starting a business around that. You can draw it back to every type of decision, personally and professionally, in some way.
Absolutely. What I see with my clients on the emotional intelligence side is, we know mindset. We talk about mindset being so important, but there's so many layers to the mindset. And, when you have a challenging day, not if, and when you have a challenging week, or you have a team member that's challenging, or they quit, or you thought you were getting this client and gone, poof, like you don't get that dream client, is how resilient can you be? Yeah. You're going to feel the emotions. You're going to experience pain, frustration, anger, like you name the spectrum of emotions. But to me, it's like, well, how fast can you get back to your normal state of like emotion? Because when there's this large gap of like something bad happened and 2 weeks later, you're like still not showing up, you're not taking action in your business, you're still maybe throwing a temper tantrum or a fit, you're losing that traction in your business. Whereas in my opinion, if you can regulate that, so we're both talk with our hands. Our audio listeners can't see this, but we're on Zoom right now talking with our hands.
For sure.
And when Alex was explaining emotional intelligence in his definition, he was using his hands of like stabilizing the emotions, not having these ups and downs. And I think that's so true. And like real world applications of the struggles and challenges small business owners have all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting too is I've heard some people lately, and as conversations come up, that some people are like, well, aren't you just ignoring your emotions? Isn't this unhealthy because you're letting negative emotions bottle up? and you're not paying attention to these sad feelings, anger feelings, feelings of frustration, whatever they may be. And I feel like I have my general response to that. But I'm curious, if someone says that to you, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I could see how people could say like, oh, well, if I'm just staying calm all the time, then I'm ignoring my anger, and then and then it's going to bottle up and I'm going to lose my cool one day. And it's like, I could get how without exploring EQ a little bit more, you could think that it might be that.
Okay.
This
is such a great question. I love when the tables get turned. Okay. So as you were asking that question, I was thinking, okay, how have I described this to my son? So my son's just turned 12. In our house, we prioritize emotional intelligence. It's conversation we have. I would say every day there's an opportunity or a lesson where we're explaining this in some fashion or another.
And how old's your son?
12.
12. Okay. Yeah.
Every day. So, for sure. But it's been since, early on when you would think like the twos, which are temper tantrums, right?
Yeah.
In our opinion, this might be controversial. In our opinion, the temper tantrums are because they don't know how to articulate their emotions. And so we focused early on, right? Because it's kind of the same as an adult temper tantrum. You like just fell off the rails. You don't know how to articulate your emotions. The emotions are coming at you.
Right.
So we started these conversations from a toddler. Okay, so back to your question and my answer. We can experience emotion, but it's a powerful thing to think you can be the observer of the emotion and not the victim of the emotion.
Yes.
So when my son does something and he says, but I was just so angry, or I was just so sad, or whatever it is, right? And likewise, I would say that, my husband would say that. When we do that, to us, it's a throwaway statement of like, we're just a victim of the emotion. The emotion made us do something.
Yeah.
And so when we can still observe the emotion, feel the emotion in a healthy way, but still feel like we have the control intellectually, physically of how we show up when we are fill in the blank, all those emotions, that is powerful. And I'm not saying my husband and I get it right every time. I'm not saying my son does, but to have that conversation and aware, what happens is when you don't get it right, you're more quickly to course correct because you're like, I know better. Okay, I'm going to do better.
Right.
Even if it doesn't turn out like the way we want it to be. It's like, okay, yep, I'm totally in control of myself and I'm observer of the emotion.
Yes, I love that. And it's okay if you're feeling, frustrated, pissed off, whatever it may be, and you're like, I need a minute.
Yeah.
I got to talk to my girlfriend and I mean, for the most part, we don't get in any like those crazy arguments, but we've had a couple times where we were just really not seeing each other.
Yep.
But it was after we've already had conversations where we wanted to lead with more empathy and understanding and emotional intelligence for one another. And so we would be like, we need a break right now. One of us needs a break right now. We could talk about it later. And we don't get into an argument about it right now while emotions are high. And we come back and we revisit when we've cooled down a little bit. And I lead with, I want to just share the things that made me feel a certain way at that time. I felt this emotion because of this conversation. It went in this way. And as a result, I was not feeling heard or maybe seen in this particular conversation or whatever it may have been. But we talk about it. We both share. And we both are very intentional about, I'm just trying to understand you. I'm not here to defend myself right now. It's just I'm trying to understand her. Then she's trying to understand me. We're talking it through. The ability, and this is what I was going to say earlier, and it's so amazing that you do this with your son and in your family. It's unbelievable. But the ability to be able to communicate about how you're feeling and in a more effective way, maybe even more objective way. This thing happened and then it made me feel a certain way, not like you're an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. You made me. We try to stay away from those statements, but
Yeah. Oh man, I have a pretty funny story about this, but then I'm also like, if my girlfriend hears it, am I gonna get in trouble? We'll come back to it. But I guess just to finish that point of like the ability to articulate how you're feeling is a phenomenal way to process the emotions. I don't feel that they're bottled up or pent up because I feel like, I feel good. We just talked about it. We had a great conversation, conflict resolution. We move on. Our relationship's even more solidified now. And that's not just in your love life. That could be with a client and you're not seeing eye to eye and you're not getting along for whatever reason. And you could clear the air a little bit.
Yeah.
That could be with, and I've had to do that sometimes. And I understand, might pause and ask a client a question, and it's like maybe I'm getting the wrong vibe from them, and I find out that they actually had a really horrible morning, or the last sales rep that came in to do this thing screwed up miserably, majorly. And so instead of me pitching my product, which is not my style, I'm there to just understand their world and clear the air. You might, sometimes in sales, you're kind of playing business therapist for a little bit of that meeting, let them vent it out a little bit. But the other thing that, I would say too is, the more you practice, I always thinking about it like strengthening life muscles. It's kind of like the visual for me. It's almost like I don't know, it's how it makes sense to me. But the more you practice strengthening the muscle that is emotional management, you go through this whole evolution of recognizing why you might feel a certain way.
Yep.
And then observing, the trigger or the thing that's happened or was said or whatever. And then you can almost like decide like, all right, do I really have to take this on right now? I'm going to cool off. I still feel a little pissed off. I'm going to cool off a little bit. I'm not going to say anything I might regret. Let me come back to this in a few minutes. And then the more you do that, the more I've found, at least for me and clients that I've worked with, and is things that used to bother me just don't bother me that anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not being bottled up. Like I don't have these times of blowout.
Exactly.
They truly don't bother me because I'm very quick to be like, I don't need to take that in. Something that would have pissed me off 2 years ago. Oh, this person cut me off in traffic. And I'm just like, that just is a person.
Doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like,
when you were saying that, I was thinking of like, let's take it back to sales. So I recently did an episode where it was like the fear of failure, but the fear of success and the mindset around that. And one thing that you had said was, can you still feel the feeling and separate that and take action? So for example, in sales, if you have the feeling or emotion that say you're not good enough, or maybe you don't deserve it, you're not challenging that thought. When you have emotional intelligence like that thought actually creates the emotion in you, right? Which can literally multiply and mushroom. Right. But when you have that emotional management, it's like, okay, so like, can I be the observer of the thought and the emotion and still choose to ask for the client? And that's what I heard through what you were saying is like, can you still experience the emotion and choose the action, like a different action? Is that what you said? I don't know. Like that's just what I heard through my filters.
Certainly partly that. And the ability to kind of almost like, I don't know, like I don't know if it's ego or put your ego aside, put your preconceived like agenda or outcome or judgment or any of that. I just kind of like put that on the side. And I just am like, this is just not about me.
Yep.
And I'm just here to understand this person. And then that way I just feel like so neutral. Now I want to share, because sometimes I've talked about this with clients and like the very traditional, like hardcore VPs of sales or CROs, they're a lot of times they don't come from, they might not totally agree with everything that we're talking about right now, because it's like, oh, well, then you don't have enough urgency on your sales and you're not competitive enough and you're not driven enough. And maybe in some sales environments, that might be true. I've been in small business sales that was much more transactional. And I was like, I'm always going to do right by a client. And so I'm not going to push product on them just because a quota number told me to. Right. I'm still going to work my ass off and I care about doing well. So I want to hit quota or exceed it.
Yep.
But I'm also not going to do anything that's not right by this client. And I've found my stride in more of like a mid-market and small enterprise sales a few years ago, because I felt like it was the balance of I can learn, really understand the client, really learn their needs. We're going to have a number of meetings over the course of a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I can determine if this is a good fit. I know that I can then lead with value and be a good communicator, help them solve their problems. But in the beginning, I don't come in like I assume that this meeting has to go a certain way. I have my goals in mind for a clear next step, just enough discovery so that we can move to a proposal, demo, whatever the next step is. But that's how I come in. I prepare for that. I prepare who my client is. What do they care about? But then once I'm there, I'm calm and I'm neutral, and I just try to be a good listener, and I plan good questions ahead of time so that when these challenging things inevitably arise, I don't feel like I'm on the defensive. I don't feel like it's me versus them. I feel like it's us two together collaboratively trying to solve your problem. Maybe we're the tool, maybe we're the service for you. Maybe we're not. That's okay. Right. Let's brainstorm together. Let's both be on the same team here against the problem that you have at hand. It's like not about me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. several years ago, I actually hired a sales coach that specialized in relationship selling.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I had heard, that kind of phrase, like separating it out from what you would traditionally think sales are, which are hardcore, like you're saying, transactional, versus relationship is like, how do you, build a relationship with somebody, find out if there is a need and you have value to provide.
Right.
And that, once I learned about that, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so much in alignment with what I already was doing, but probably not polished at it.
Right.
Is that, I was sharing with you before we hit record, like who my audience is, you know, they're service providers. They're professionals that are providing a service that, is going to help their client in some way. So you think an attorney, a therapist, an architect, designer, they actually have something they want to serve somebody with. Service-based business owner. It's not exactly transactional. And so wouldn't it make sense to think of it as a relationship? And if we're going to think of it as a relationship, we can bring it full circle to, emotional intelligence helps any interpersonal relationship of listening and understanding and wanting to come from a place of partnership versus what you were explaining, like us versus them, which sometimes can be in a transactional sell.
Right. You're spot on. You're speaking my language. And the reason why is because the common denominator to everything is people.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not matter. The most important thing in life is the quality of your relationships. One, it starts with the relationship that you have with yourself. And then the most immediate thing after that is a relationship that you have with other people. And like, if you look at the other side of that, what's the worst thing you could do to somebody that's aside from, the death penalty or something, is solitary confinement, right?
Yeah.
So the common denominator to all things in your personal and professional life is your ability to get along with people, your relationships, the way that you can communicate. And what everybody really wants at the end of the day is to feel heard and understood. And you don't have to get along perfectly with everybody. Everybody's not for everybody. You're not supposed to be this like, I'm going to be friends with everyone. Like, it's not about that.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah. So, but the more that you do this work, self-awareness in who you truly are, you get more confidence in who you truly are. You stop bending over backwards to be a version of yourself that's not authentic at all. And you start to really get in tune with, this is how I am, but I also am open to feedback to getting better. This is my style. But I also know that I can improve on my communication. Maybe in some areas I'm really strong over here, but in other areas I actually could be a better listener and help other people understand that I do care about them. Because a lot of people have really great intentions, but they're not that good at communicating it. And so it's like, I know warm, loving people who like don't come off as that good of listeners, but I know deep down they have a great heart and they do care.
Yeah.
And so for them, they could have a little bit of polished communication skills. And the next thing you know, their life starts to unfold in a much better way because they can influence outcomes in their favor. They have relationships going better. More client interactions are more of them are closing. Business is growing, or they want to change careers. They go in the interview and they get the new job versus the last 5 interviews they went on for whatever reason. They just didn't quite get the job offer, right? It's like, so much of it starts with the self-awareness and practicing of these skills and emotional intelligence, empathy. I like to call it empathetic listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about tactics to appear like you're listening. It's connecting with somebody energetically because you are literally trying to understand what they're saying and where they're coming from. And, you could cross your arms and you can still tell if someone's listening or not, right? It's
right.
This person leaned back, so they're not paying attention. Like, no, it's more into to that, right? But all of this is connected. And then the way I look at it is all of this is connected, should be your foundation. And then it's just, where are you directing it?
Mm-hmm.
So I directed a lot and primarily work with clients who directed in entrepreneurship and sales, small and medium-sized businesses. We have some clients that are on the larger side, but I feel like I love working with, the underdogs of like, cause I am one too. I'm a small business owner, startup owner, whatever. And, I love working with entrepreneurs too, because it's like, man, these are the skills that are so important and they're so often overlooked. Even if you are aware that they are important, the intentional practice of them is usually not executed, at least the people that I come across.
Okay, so you
right?
literally, I was thinking of my next question. I'm so guilty of this, and you literally just answered it. I wanted to ask, so I think we've really hit home, what emotional intelligence is, how it shows up, why it's important. But in your opinion, once somebody gets there, how do they learn it, or how do they make shifts to prioritize that? Is that reading a book, listening to a podcast? What are your recommendations that someone can be like, oh my gosh, this really could help me? What's their next steps?
Yeah, great question. So I like to start small. I feel like the more simple you break something down into, the easier it feels to just start something new. Otherwise, it could just feel really overwhelming. And so a great place to start is by first having a journal process. I like it at night personally. I worry sometimes saying this because I think right now I might have already triggered a number of people listening. We're like, gosh, journaling, or, maybe not your audience because you have been giving this great content for so long. But I know I've shared that with some people like, dude, I'm not going to journal.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
That's so lame. One of those things.
I think it's a great tool, but it may not be for everybody.
It may not be for everybody, but man, it is game changer stuff. Even you just reflect on your day. Just, okay, how about this? Don't journal and don't pick up your phone and go walk your dog or go to the gym or whatever, and just think about your day and ask yourself a couple questions.
Yeah.
How did things really go today? What really made me feel energized? Where did I feel a little stuck? Where did I feel a little bit frustrated? And you just start with a couple of questions that prompt you. Who are the people that I really enjoyed my conversations with today? What was it about that? How do I find more people like that in my life? What were the things in my business that, man, I keep running into these roadblocks? The more that we ask ourselves good questions, we get clarity on who we are and what we care about.
Yeah.
And then the more that we do that, we get confidence in ourselves, and we could start to be more deliberate in our decision making, because you make great decisions when you have clarity in where you're going and why and what you care about.
Absolutely.
And so a good place to start is just do some reflection. A next thing that you could do is adopt the idea, regardless of what you thought before this, that all communication and everything that we're talking about in the EQ and the self-awareness stuff, but especially communication skills, it's all practicable, learnable, improvable. It's not you were born with it or you were not. Some people have a disposition to being stronger communicators at an early age. Some people just have a tendency towards some talents versus others. That's just the way it goes. But everyone can improve it. The way to improve it is by practicing and just accept that you are practicing. Now, one of the things that I feel so grateful for having had a sales career is because it forces you to do uncomfortable things every day. Other jobs do as well, but some jobs you can get away with just being at a computer and never talking to anybody for days on end, right?
Yeah.
So sales, and among other jobs, but it was my career, forced me to practice being a great communicator, because if I wasn't, I'm not being successful, right? I'm not closing deals, and I'm not, hitting quota and all these things. So the second piece of advice, so first is journal and reflect and get some clarity on who you are. This doesn't just I'll do this for a week and then I'm good. This should be an ongoing thing. I
agree. It's not a box you check off. You're like, skill done. I can ride a bike. No. Right. This is like a forever, in my opinion, a forever practice.
Because you can infinitely discover yourself, because we continue to evolve and change. I'm 35. I don't know who I'm going to be at 40. And that kind of excites me, but I have an intentional North Star that I work towards. And my actions are way more deliberate than when I was 25. I was I would like to get a job. So I'm just going to look at these things that pay well. And then you peel back the layers. Well, do I really care about them? Well, no, not really. Okay, well, then why are you going to go sell pharmaceuticals? You don't care.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, I guess I shouldn't. But I know I've asked a lot of people that, and I'm like, hey, are you passionate about this industry at all? Well, no, but it's a 6-figure base salary. I'm like, okay, but you don't care about it, right? Okay, let's make sure we're asking ourselves the right questions.
Yeah,
so first thing, journal, get some clarity on who you are. You're going to have revelations. One day you're going to be driving and be like, oh my God, I forgot. I used to totally love that thing and it brought me so much joy. Maybe I can layer that back into my life again.
Yeah.
The second thing is look for opportunities to practice connecting with people and being a better communicator. And for anyone who feels nervous, being a good communicator is not about being a loudmouth extrovert, the funniest person in the room, gift of gab. It's not about any of that. That will eventually more confidence when you speak up will come with this as a byproduct, but just start by being a good listener and just showing people that you care and you're trying to understand their world. That's the second place to go.
Yeah.
Is looking for opportunities to practice connecting with the people in your life. And work is a great place for that because it forces you to do it. Work kind of forces you to like do it in a way that's agreeable enough that you can get an outcome you need. Like I think some people might like, be a little lazy around family and they might act a different way at home.
Yeah.
Work, you can't totally do that all the time because you might get fired. You might piss off a client. Like you got to kind of play the part a little bit. So it forces you to like level up your communication game, I think, better than most environments. And obviously personal relationships like a spouse or something, but
so I could not agree with you more. I do, like I had said, I got really interested in this and I read books, I went to workshops and had a coach, and none of that really was as much as practicing it and holding myself accountable to like, oh, this is an opportunity to practice this. Like you used the word look for it. And I kind of giggled because I was like, I don't think I was ever looking for it. It's like life just is very abundantly able to give you opportunity after opportunity to, practice these opportunities to, I say, show up your best. Like, what's my best choice in this moment? How do I want to be?
I love that.
And let's just like, so, bringing this full circle rather to, being a business owner. When you are dealing with your clients, with your team members, you are dealing with all different types of personalities, all types of situations. And what I heard you say, not the exact words, were like, not to make assumptions of the situation, seek to understand.
Yes.
And I think that's really important because I think you would agree, like, man, those stories can get crazy and we can start believing the story of the client that doesn't like us or they're pissed off at us or, the team member isn't looking out for the business. And then when you just seek to understand, you realize they had a really bad day or something was going on in their personal life, right?
Right.
So I had, read this book like 20 years ago and it was by Byron Katie and the book is called Loving What Is. And she illustrated the power of assumption. And she had this example of, the woman goes into the bathroom and there's like water, but she assumed it was pee all over the toilet. Okay. And she's like, that is so rude. Like, who would pee on the toilet? And da, 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 da. So, she cleans it up, hovers over the toilet, goes to the bathroom. And she's pissed at the person that had just walked out of the bathroom. Like she's got this whole colored story.
Yeah.
She goes to flush the toilet and the toilet like literally spits water everywhere. And
oh my God, yeah.
It was just so colorful and interesting because it's how many times can we tell a story in a situation about a client, a team member, a colleague, and we believe it to be so true, but we don't always get to see unless we seek to understand how absolutely wrong we were. And so in the midst, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of frustration and anger. And that's literally setting us up for this situation where, in my opinion, it doesn't allow us to show up our best.
Right.
And I use that phrase because I believe that we owe it to ourselves, our business, our team members, and our clients to just show up our best. And our best looks different every day. But if we did that, literally your business can be so successful. Now, what are one of the major reasons, Alex, that we don't show up our best? And it's that not having emotional management, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, the emotional management, the lack of it, and the connected stories and judgments and preconceived ideas and notions before you enter a situation. Not to go too deep down this whole path, but like everyone basically has this wounded 9-year-old running the show unless you go do serious work to heal that person, that version of you.
Yeah.
And I've been through leadership seminars and retreats. I've even seen sales trainings where they talk about this. And I saw, one where they were like, when you're in the parking lot and you're too afraid to go in and prospect, that's not you. That's your 10-year-old self who's keeping him or herself protected because otherwise rejection and it, stems back to all these feelings of, even on like a very deep human level, of getting rejected, being shunned from the tribe or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I digress a little bit. But my point is the more that we do this self-awareness type work and we understand why we do the things that we do, a lot of the things that we think and believe now in our adult lives are ideas and beliefs that were formulated at a younger age because of things that happened to us, right? We all know that person, and maybe it's even us or somebody listening. You know, you were in class, you were 10 years old, you raise your hand, you have the wrong answer, everyone in class laughs at you. And right there, in that moment, you decide, I'm never going to embarrass myself again. I'm not speaking up anymore. Fast forward to you're 35, 40, 45 years old. You're still sitting in the boardroom, not speaking up. And everybody else has the same answers that you had 10, 20 minutes earlier, but you were too afraid to speak up. Right. And that's like a simple example, but so it's not like it's always because one thing happened, it automatically means something. It's what we make it mean.
Yes.
Right. Because someone else sitting next to you could be 10 years old. They raised their hand. They were wrong. They were so embarrassed that they said, I'm never going to be wrong again. And now I'm going to become the most knowledgeable person in the room. And now they become a know-it-all and they raise their hand every time because they love to be right. Right. It's just whatever you made it mean. We know someone who is an alcoholic and has never drank in their life because their dad was an alcoholic. Right. It's whatever your meaning is that you attach to it. And so we have most of our lives and a lot of the things that we believe now come from these things that we've experienced throughout our lives when we're little kids, high school, college, even adult lives.
Yeah.
And then the more you bring them into your life, you reinforce those beliefs. So you bring this past into your present, you create this predictable future. Well, the self-awareness work helps you recognize why you think and do some of the things that you do. And it helps you start to, I like to think about it as almost like a really tightly tangled knot, like a tightly tangled ball that you can actually start to like pull some of the strings out and just start to loosen up a little bit. Right. Or like you start to peel back the layers of the onion and you start to be like, that is why I view the world the way that I do, because this thing happened in college or this thing happened when I was younger. My parents, a teacher told me that, everyone's got teacher told me I was never going to amount to nothing. I went on to be enough,
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so powerful. It's like getting curious about how we became who we are today.
The curiosity. And then with that, you have more compassion and understanding for other people. The deeper you understand yourself, the better you understand others.
Yeah.
And so then what starts to happen is your default starts to become the compassionate default. And I'm way more compassionate and patient now than I was in my 20s. I'm from northern New Jersey. I drive fast and talk fast and curse and like all that. And I'd be quick to like judge or be impatient. And now I'm like a pretty calm guy. I still talk kind of high energy because I'm passionate about this topic. But if someone does something, my default is almost become like, I don't know. Well, they're probably, maybe they're having a bad day. I can just cut them a break.
Yeah.
And at least try to understand where they're coming from. If I'm in a meeting, like, hey, let's have a chat. Just curious, why do you ask? Where's that coming from? Not like, oh, well, now we have to be on the defensive about it.
Yep. Not making all those assumptions is a much more peaceful life. Like I even catch myself making assumptions. And every time I catch myself, it's not like great assumptions. Like that's not where your head goes. It's like like this kind of negative path. And then I laugh at myself. So just like I did here is now I become the observer. And so it's not like I'm like I said, this is a practice. You're not perfect at it. It's like, how quickly can you observe? Like, oh, I'm going down this path of making assumptions or making it about me in the room or the situation instead of what the person I'm speaking to is. You're not going to get it right every time, but the quicker you observe, you get to make that shift. And what's great is if you can make that shift in the moment, like in the conversation, not, an hour later where you're like, how'd that conversation go off the rails? You just get better at being more present and observing.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because there's two things there. And it's also like a tactic that people can practice in their day is another thing you could do to practice these skills is just simply, can I intentionally go into a situation thinking, I want to leave this person or this situation better than how I found them? And so I try to lead with that. I'm not perfect. And by the way, everything we're talking about, it's not about batting 1,000. It's just about incrementally better and your life starts to get significantly better. But it's not like we always have perfect conversations and we're always on our perfectly best behavior. We still have our bad days. It's all good. But I try to come back to a place of like, all right, right now, if I got this meeting, even if it's a frustrating work interaction, but things, I ultimately need things to go well. I'm not going to bring my frustrated energy into the meeting. I'm actually going to see how can I leave this person feeling like, oh man, Alex really got me today. And I'm feeling excited to be working with him still versus, oh man, he was kind of pissed on the call today. So first thing, how can I leave people better than how I found them? One of the ways to do that, and it's almost kind of like this fun little social experiment, if you will, is I try to lead with kindness, especially in situations where I feel like someone is maybe otherwise not treated with kindness, or it could be a frustrating situation for whatever reason. And the sad but most obvious example that comes to mind a lot is like the long line at Starbucks, like the busy Starbucks or coffee shop. But I feel like people are like way ruder at Starbucks than any like just local coffee shop. You don't get that same like level of rudeness, it seems. And you go in there and there's a long line and everyone back there is hustling to make your drinks. And God forbid someone messes it up a little bit. And it's like, you see people who are so rude to those baristas.
Right. They're
and
not practicing emotional intelligence in that moment
and
at
it's
all.
like, yo, it's coffee. It is a drink. Calm down. And by the way, like PSA, if you're running so late that going into a coffee shop means you actually don't have enough time, then leave. Yeah, don't wait online and then be a jerk to the person who's just simply there doing their job. Like, then you go, like, right. Don't go yelling at the barista. But then I'll get up there. And even if that person who's taking my order is not that kind or friendly to me because they're having a bad day or whatever it could be, I still am going to lead with kindness and be very polite and give them a quick smile. I was like, hey, how you doing? I hope you're having an okay day. Here's my order. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Right.
Yeah.
Someone back there's hustling. Hey, no rush. Yeah. Take your time. Thank you. And all I can do is give them a little bit of kindness, patience, and some compassion. And you feel good when you do that.
Yeah.
And then that breeds to the next thing. And then you walk into your office and then I would think to myself, like, all right, I'm going to connect with this, before I had my own company, when I would work in an office with coworkers, I guess pre-COVID, right?
Yeah.
I would look for opportunities to connect with somebody, whether it was, at the fridge in the kitchen or in passing by.
Yeah.
Even if it was just for a minute or two. This doesn't mean I go schmooze everyone for half an hour. It could be a total of 2 minutes. I walk towards the kitchen. I see one of our software engineers. Like, hey, how's it going? Oh, like your kid had the soccer tournament this weekend, right? How'd it go? You win? Like, cool. Like, just a quick connection because I'm showing that I care about them.
Yeah.
Leave that person better than how I found them, because they otherwise were like, frustrated, sitting in traffic in the morning or whatever it may have been. And so I don't know if that was like the best explanation, but it's like, I just look for these little opportunities to just be a little bit kinder to somebody else. It makes me feel good. And it also starts to strengthen that like compassion and understanding muscle. Like, other people are going through their own challenges of their day. What if I could just be a little patient with them instead of being like, this person's such a jerk, I'm going to be a jerk back to them.
Yeah. I mean, what I heard is that muscle you were talking about. So if you can do it to the barista and the person in the lunchroom and along your day when it's higher stakes and you're across the table with a client or a sales deal or a team member, and you have to practice that emotional intelligence of being compassionate and understanding, you've gotten this opportunity of practicing it throughout your entire day or life.
You've been strengthening the muscle. It's like, it just becomes not as hard. You're stronger at it. It's so true.
And it becomes your new learned habit or behavior.
Yeah, great point.
And it becomes more natural. And when it's higher stakes, when you're tempted to lose your cool, you've got all this practice. I agree. Well, as we wrap up today, this has been a great conversation. And I just wanted to just cap it off with a couple things that I observed in our conversation. We went in a lot of different ways, which makes for a wonderful conversation. But one thing you had said that I think is really important for our listeners, because this is a pain point, is you said it doesn't mean always being nice. Not that you're being mean, but it doesn't mean that you're always agreeable with this emotional intelligence and understanding. And I just want to, in my opinion, layer that over, because we talked pre-record about this, the importance of boundaries. Emotional management and the self-awareness is so important, because without the self-awareness and emotional management, in my opinion, it makes it almost absolutely impossible to clearly communicate your boundaries and hold your boundaries. And as business owners, we really need to have boundaries that serve us showing up our best, boundaries with our team members, boundaries around our time, boundaries with our family that thinks like we just have all the time in the world. We should be able to handle anything during a work day.
Right.
Those boundaries all, in my opinion, stem from strengthening your emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And it's key to success for sure.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great ad. I totally agree. It's not about, nice and pleasantries all the time. Because when it's time to stand up for yourself and respect your boundaries, your time, if you are feeling like somebody's using offensive language, if you are witnessing someone else put somebody else down in a meeting, you can stand up and be firm and confident and say, look, the words that you just said right there are affecting this person in this way. Or when you show up 5 minutes late and you don't let us know, what that means is now we all get thrown off of our schedule. And so I just want to find a common ground where we can agree that we're both going to have mutual respect for each other's time, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not screaming at this person, but like they're also going to take me seriously that I just held a boundary there. I don't know if I just said it right in the best way ever. It was a little off the cuff, but
no. I actually was like, that's exactly it. Is that if the thing that broke your boundary angers you, frustrates you, makes you mad, and that's how you deliver holding that boundary, they're not going to hear the message. They're just hearing like, man, she's having a bad day. Like they just blow it off. She's angry. That's just the way they are. Like all of those things. But if you can regulate yourself and speak intelligently while holding the boundary, the message is more likely to get delivered, and it's poignant, like it's direct. And the difference between that experience and the other one is understanding your own emotions and not letting them get the best of you in those times.
Exactly right. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So as we close out, are there any final things you'd like to share with my audience about emotional intelligence? And then if not or so, I would also love you to share with our audience how they can learn more about you, where to find you, and whatever next steps that might look like with the work you do.
Yeah. I mean, first off, just want to thank you so much for the opportunity. This has been great. I love your podcast and I really appreciate being on the show today. So thank you. I think the big takeaways, if I could just shout this from the rooftop, is, I promise you that strengthening your communication skills, especially from the perspective of deepening emotional intelligence and self-awareness and putting those things into practice on a daily or at least a few times a week basis where you look for it in conversations, your journaling, your self-reflection, etc. It's the most important thing I've ever done for success in other areas of my life. Like I just can't believe it's not the biggest topic that everybody talks about.
I second that.
It's such a superpower. It's crazy. And so I hope that even people who have dismissed it in the past are going to be like, you know what, maybe I'll listen to what these two have to say and I'll try it out. But yeah, that's the first thing, is just the ability to be able to strengthen your communication skills, EQ, all those things is going to improve your personal and professional life in every way, because you have to interact with people. And the two things is for a quality of life is, to the degree that you can influence outcomes positively in your life and have influence over things, I feel like a great deal of confidence that I can have things go my way much more than I used to a few years ago. And then the second side of it is how you handle the situation when they don't. And those two things, if things don't go your way, how are you handling it? You throwing a little temper tantrum like a 9-year-old, even though you're 42? Or are you handling it calm, cool, and collected? So that's that. I mean, just massive. And then, anyone out there, the way that we work with people, we work with individuals, we work with small and medium-sized companies, sales professionals, and other employees at companies. And we do communication skills trainings. We also do a lot of it for sales teams, doing sales consulting as well. So really in like sales, communication, getting along well in teams, that's our bread and butter. And as far as, getting in touch with us, our website is evolveleadership.co, and all of our social channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, we're at Evolve Leadership as well. And if anyone wanted to get in touch and work with us, we're happy to offer discounts to your community. Best thing to do is actually just email me, because we're switching over our tech platforms as we speak. So I don't want there to be like a broken link or an expired coupon code. So just simply, if you're listening, just email me directly. I always get back to everybody. Alex@evolveleadership.co. And then just put the Productivity Straight Talk podcast in the subject line, and I'll know it's you, and we can jump on a call. And if we work together, I'm happy to hook you up on the price there. So That's my offer for you.
Okay, that's awesome.
Okay.
And we'll make sure we share all the links in the show notes as well. I do, like I said, my journey started with learning the skill sets, followed by 2 decades of practicing. And so if you need to learn these skill sets, I would really suggest reaching out to Alex and his team, because when you can understand the skill that you need to practice, that's a great place to start. So,
Exactly.
so then followed by practice. Alex, thank you so much for being here and having this conversation and, really helping facilitate a conversation I wanted to have with our listeners, and you coming in with your insights and experience. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was great. Appreciate it.
One thing that Alex said that really struck me was that emotional intelligence isn't about being nice all the time. And I think that definitely trips people up. They hear emotional intelligence and maybe they think it means being agreeable or avoiding conflict. But it's actually the opposite. It's what allows you to stand firm, hold your boundaries, and have those hard conversations without your emotions hijacking the message. And here's the truth of it. If you are trying to hold a boundary when you are angry or frustrated, the person doesn't hear the boundary. They just hear all your emotion or your anger and your frustration, and then nothing changes. But when you can regulate yourself first, speak calmly and directly, that's when your message can actually land. And that insight alone was worth coming back to this conversation for sure. I have loved having you listen to this episode of the Small Business Straight Talk podcast, and I sure hope you found my conversation with Alex to be incredibly valuable and insightful. But I have to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So, how can you take action on the conversation that you just heard with Alex today? I think a really great place to start is that the next time you feel a strong emotion in a business situation, frustration, anger, defensiveness, whatever it is, pause before you respond. Just notice it and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now and why? You don't have to fix it or act on it. Just notice. And that noticing is the first step to strengthening your own EQ muscle. Start practicing low-stakes situations so that when high-stake moments come, you are ready. And high-stake moments are going to come in your business, whether it's a client, a team member, an employee, a contractor, a vendor. There may be times when it feels more high stake, and I want you to be prepared. I want you to have practiced and built the muscle of speaking to somebody else, holding those boundaries firmly and confidently. All right, that's it. Just start noticing how you're showing up and how you are feeling in any given situation. Before we close out, I want to let you know that you can book a discovery call today to find out what working with me and my private coaching program looks like. I would love to talk to you about your business and to find out if we're a fit in working together. At the time of this recording, I am taking names for a wait list for my next openings in coaching. And I want to make sure that if you have been listening to this podcast and you've been thinking about wanting to work with me, that you get your name on that list so that we can start working together sooner than later. So head on over to amberdelagarza.com/coaching to find out more and book your call today. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with a fellow business owner who you think this conversation would be incredibly valuable for. And if you are new here, I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.